Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast, coming to you from inside the eye of a blue-eyed giant named Macumber. I'm your host, Conor O'Brien, and joining me as always is my co-host, Martin Fire.
How's
You
it
seem
going?
puzzled, Martin.
Inside the eye of a blue-eyed giant named what?
Named Macumber.
Did you make that up, or is that a thing that's just gone over my head entirely?
That is a quote from Game of Thrones. Old
Ah,
Nan thinks that she's telling folk tales, and she's like, "Oh, some people believe that the sky is blue because we all exist inside of the eye of a blue-eyed giant."
yeah, okay. I don't feel as bad for not recognizing that now because that was not the part of those books that I paid particularly close attention to.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. How are you today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I had a good sesh last night with my players. We kind of just getting into like a lot of the setup for what's going to be like the final arc of them, like questing for basically doing like kind of god sent quests or quests to like make contact with gods to get a boon, and then setting up a whole thing where they're going to go and take face off for the bad guy for the final stretch. Which will be interesting. We're going to have to go on a break for a while soon, though, because some of my players are going to be gone for a while. They're going interrailing, which is really cool.
Oh, nice. All around Europe, obviously.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so it shall be a little tough to stay in touch for D&D, and I wouldn't ever force anyone on their holiday to be like, if someone was like, oh, I'm going on holidays, but like, oh, like, you know, I'll have nothing to do on the Tuesday, my holiday at like 9 o'clock, so if you want, I can just like Skype in for the session. I'd be like, if you specifically want to do that, that's fine.
Yeah,
But like, I'd never like force someone to do that on holiday, and like, you know, like, I love D&D, but if I'm not playing D&D, like if I'm away on holiday, I'm probably not, like, I might watch Critical Role, but I'm not going to play D&D.
but yeah. The thing about it is I love D&D, obviously.
Mm.
We have a podcast about it. Don't know if you
Indeed.
know that, Martin. But yeah, I mean, if it's there's like a thing where like it's fun to play D&D, but if you have to go through a lot of trouble to like connect your hotel's Wi-Fi, which may not be great, and then you're in a different time zone to try and
Yes.
connect into a game, and you're trying to describe it over Skype, and you can't really see what's going on when everyone else is in person, there's a certain point where it becomes more work and it's less fun, and you just rather play. You just rather wait
Yeah.
to play properly, you know?
And like everyone be better off that way as well, to be honest, I think.
Absolutely.
But just
Um,
it's probably the best time to do it, to be honest, because I'm gonna give them like 3 months of downtime. Soonish, probably
cool.
like the next session or session after, so they have a lot of stuff they want to work on and get ready for. So it won't be the biggest deal.
That's good. While you're actually talking about your game being on a temporary hiatus as well,
Mhm.
I did want to speak or let our audience, however small it is, our
We love
audience
you
know
regardless.
we do. I always want to let our audience know that we will be taking a short break after this will be our last episode for a short while, for a couple of months. We will probably be back in August. In the next couple of months, I'm getting married, so there's a lot of busy work leading up to that. I also really want to get our game that I run and you play in to a point where we can take a few weeks of a break before the wedding as well. We probably only have we have a few weeks to the wedding, but we realistically will probably only get 3, maybe 4 more sessions in before that, because I have stuff on. So yeah, a few things have been put on hold, but we will be back. The Mike Flores podcast, it will never die.
Yes.
There, I said it. But we'll be
Just
back in
yeah.
sometime in August, with and continue our continuing our regularly scheduled programming. But until then, guys, yeah, we'll continue on with this episode for now.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy it. In case you haven't picked up from the intro, today we're talking about giants, baby.
Yes.
Specifically, the giant options Unearthed Arcana that came out a couple weeks ago. There, man,
Yes.
I think I read like, okay, before we get into
I
it,
I,
there's, like,
I, I know because you're the one who taught me about this UA in our D&D chat with like the like you immediately were like, yeah, you're gonna play Barb again.
yeah, because there's a barbarian, there is a druid, and there's a wizard.
Yes.
All right. The barbarian's the first, obviously, to come up in the PDF. I read, I think, maybe the first 1 or 2 abilities of this subclass,
Yeah.
and I said, "Hey, Martin, you don't know how you've been playing like barbarian for like a couple of years now in this campaign. Well, guess what? You're gonna want to play it again immediately because this is built for you." Do you remember how how in when D&D 5e first came out, if you really wanted to build like a Thor style character,
Yeah.
it'd be like Tempest Cleric. We go Tempest Cleric,
Yeah.
you get lightning powers, you can fly when you're outdoors, you get really cool
And then
stuff.
like the belt of Giant Strength, the Dwarven Thrower, and some other one. They combine
The
them all
Hammer
together.
of Thunderbolts.
That was it. Yeah, and you become Thor, basically.
You basically become Thor.
Yeah. And you can insta kill
then
giants, which is really cool.
you can. Oh yeah, you get bonus damage towards giants.
No, there's an ability where you like hit a giant with an attack and it makes a DC 17 con save, and if it fails, it just fucking dies. Sorry, we're 5 minutes in, and I said
we just clocked 5 minutes, so we're good.
okay, grand. Yeah, I'm fairly certain that was. I remember reading it because I was like, Jesus, like, you know, if it didn't require me to get like 3 other magic items to make it do this would be insane.
High level magic items.
Yeah, like.
But that was kind of the initial way when 5e first came out. But like obviously with the cleric being more of a healer and also a caster, it's not specifically Thor. It has some of the flavor, but it's not really Thor. And then we had the Storm Hero Barbarian, and you could just have lightning bolts arcing off of you, and you had all these abilities. And it's like, oh, and you're resistant to lightning. It's like, this actually makes way more sense.
Very much
Thor's
like
way more of a brute.
Thor at the end of Thor Ragnarok, and when he's going across the Rainbow Bridge, that's very much like that's the essence of your Storm Herald, basically.
Basically, yeah. You're hitting one dude, and an arc of lightning comes off your shoulder and electrocutes another dude.
By the way, I love that scene so much.
Oh man, I go back and watch it regularly on YouTube. It's so good.
Oh, with Led Zeppelin in the background as well. Oh my god.
And then, well, now. We have what might just be the most quintessential Thor subclass we're ever going to get in D&D. We have the Barbarian Path of the Giant.
Indeed.
So, quick idea. This is basically when you draw on the power of giants or giant lineage. Maybe you have giant's blood, maybe you're Goliath. Maybe you just have the power of giants somewhere back along your ancestry.
Thor is technically part giant.
Is Thor part giant?
Yeah, because Odin is one of this. Odin's dad was a son of Ymir.
Okay.
So like way back along, they're technically giants.
Interesting. So we have.
Oh no, he wasn't. Sorry, they were licked out of a salt block by a giant cow. I'm not joking.
Do you know what? I know you're not joking. Like, that's the thing. Like mythology is just that weird that when you said that, I wasn't even phased. I was like, that tracks.
The giants were made when Ymir went to sleep and the 2 inner parts of his legs touched against each other, and then all the giants came out of his legs. Hey! Yeah. Sorry for our diversion into Norse mythology, but I feel like it's slightly unavoidable here.
Very appropriate. Very appropriate. So with this Path of the Giant, barbarians who walk the path of the giant draw strength from the primal forces that are the giants and their elemental ilk. Their rages surge with elemental power and cause these barbarians to grow in size, transforming them into avatar primordial might. During their rage, barbarians may take after legendary storm giant, hair turn white and eyes crackling with lightning. Others adopt the monstrous features of apocalyptic giants rending the world around them so that they may make it anew. I particularly like that last part, apocalyptic titans rending the world. Really evocative. First up at 3rd level, we actually have a cool this is a pretty standard ability. It's a ribbon ability mostly, but so you learn to speak, read and write giant or one other language if you already know giant. Additionally, you learn either the Druid Craft or Thaumaturgy cantrip, and Wisdom is your spellcasting ability for this. Unusual that Wisdom specifically is your spellcasting ability. Yeah, not that it really matters for those two.
Usually, because the format they usually take for like Barb subclasses that have a DC associated with an ability is usually either go by your Strength or your Constitution modifier, and we'll see that pop up again here later in one of the other classes, I think. Or no, sorry,
not even that. But
I'm thinking of the Rune Knight. Sorry, apologies. The Rune Knight DC is determined by your Constitution modifier.
Oh yes, yeah. Which again, Wisdom, they usually don't pen you into one of your mental stats. Like
for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Someday I'm gonna make the smartest goddamn barbarian. He's gonna be a general of barbarians. He's gonna command all the armies and tactical mastermind.
And if I didn't roll ass 4 out of 6 stats, Lug would have been real smart.
So this is like I said, it's a ribbon ability. If you're a giant barbarian, it makes sense that you would have giant under your belt as a language. And also Druid Craft I could take or leave, but Thaumaturgy in my mind, you need to be able to speak with a thunderous boom if you're going to be a giant like that, to the point where you can shout people down from 300 feet away.
I like Druid Craft as a spell for that as well, though, because it's like a signifier of your connection to nature and the elements.
Yeah, because you can do minor harmless elemental effects, right? You can make like water dents and flames
Yeah.
puff up and stuff like that. Um, the next third level ability, this is where we get into the meat and
Yeah.
potatoes of it, right? This is called Giant's Havoc. Your rages pull strength from the primal might of giants, transforming you into a hulking force of destruction. While raging, you gain the following benefits: Crushing Hurl. And this is kind of
Which
cool.
is
So,
this is a particularly funnily named ability for Irish people. You can just see,
uh,
just see some enormous fucker absolutely destroying someone's face with a Harley.
I am making that. I am making that character. Okay, that's it.
That's just
okay.
Cook Holland, Connor.
There's going to be just belted a schlitter into the mouth of a hound. There's going to be a Goliath. He'll be in Kael'da. He'll be one of these, and he'll just walk around with a giant wooden axe, and it'll be his hurl, and he'll just be belting people with it.
Cook Holland's also part giant, and he actually is like have that right this time. He is. I nearly swore again. Oh,
So this is quite cool because it kind of reflects. If you look, we talked before about how like giant stat blocks, in the same way as dragons and a few other things, tend to be a little bit copy paste in a lot of ways. Most, if not all, giants get the ability to use a rock throw as a ranged attack, which can be devastating because it's usually like 3 or 4 d10.
It's like 66 or something like that. It's like a fireball nearly.
Yeah, it's really. I remember I hit Dan with one once on a hill giant when he was playing. You were like only like maybe level 5 or 6, and it took most of his health and almost killed him outright.
I have a phenomenal story about rocks being thrown by giants. It's a story of friendly fire.
Go on.
Early on in my campaign, before my current Bloodhunter and current Druid joined, when we had a rogue and a Circle of the Moon Druid, it was like actually one of the last sessions before they actually left, but they were fighting a creature, and the creature threw a rock at them, and my Druid, as she was wont to do, turned it into a giant ape and asked me if she could throw the rock back, and I was like, probably the right size, but make a strength check, see if you can pick the rock up, and then if you make the check, I'll let you throw it. And she was like, okay, yeah. They have like +6 strength, made it easy. She picked up the rock, no problem. I was like, cool, you can throw the rock. And I was like, cool, throw the rock. She rolls a 1. And I was like, who are you aiming at? And she goes, I was aiming at the bad guy over there by Morrigan. And I was like, right. And because I was like, that rock's about like 10 feet wide. And I was like, Morrigan, you hear a faint whistling sound behind you before boom. Just like she nearly that the sorcerer had taken no damage all fight because sorcerer stays back from everything, just electrocutes stuff until it stops moving. Wham! Giant stone boulder right into the back, nearly knocked her unconscious in one hit.
That's hilarious.
Oh god! But just one thing about Crush and Hurl, always slips my mind that you can't add rage damage to your ranged attacks.
Well, I mean, ranged attacks, no, but thrown weapon attacks, I feel like that's an oversight, particularly. Yeah, especially if you're using, like, you use the spear as a barbarian.
Yeah,
that is a perfectly valid melee weapon, but it also has a throwing feature. Barbarians also carry things like javelins and stuff, so I feel like you should be able to add that on naturally. But that's actually, we haven't actually explained what Crushing Hurl does. When you make a successful ranged attack with a thrown weapon using strength, you can add your rage damage bonus to the attack's damage roll.
I'm going to be honest here, Connor. I'm pretty positive the entire time I've played Log, I've been adding my rage damage to my attacks, and like my javelins and spear throws. I'm positive.
I mean, look, it adds up over time, but like in a case by case basis, you're adding like 3 or 4 extra damage per hit, like so.
Particularly because earlier in the campaign it would have been like +2 as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
negligible.
So, don't worry, I forgive you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's a cool ability. It gives you this actually does a few things now, and it does other stuff coming up later as well. Where this is weirdly, and like we said, this is the quintessential Thor class. Because it makes you throwing your weapons way more effective.
Yes.
I remember in a certain stream, the name of which we won't talk about because it's a person's name who we don't talk about at Wizards.
Oh yes, yeah.
This actually, do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if the source of this was that. because I remember in one particular stream, this person was trying to make a barbarian that focused on throwing weapons, and hurling their weapons and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of that went into this, once it was kind of archived or whatever.
Yeah.
But like it really comes through that this is the throwing barbarian. This is a barbarian which is hurling things at you. They have huge area of effect and battlefield control when it comes to who can I hit and what radius of effect do I have. Next up, and unsurprisingly, we have an ability called Giant Stature. This is still part of the Giant's Havoc ability. Your reach increases by 5 feet, and if you are smaller or large, if you are smaller than large, you become large, which is hilarious because that means that if you're playing like a halfling, you become large.
You shift 2 sizes.
Yeah, which is great. You become large.
Oh, play a fairy. Can't you get to tiny with a fairy?
Oh my god! Like imagine like a 12-foot tall fairy. Like
that would be horrifying. Do you believe in fairies now?
Just whack with a hammer. You become large along with anything you're wearing. If there isn't enough to become large, your size doesn't change, which is fine. This obviously is pretty quintessential. Although that being said, I've said quintessential way too much already in this podcast when I say minutes in. But this is cool because you grow in size, right?
Yeah.
But also it increases your reach by 5 feet. So this is something that.
Sorry, I have a question about this, right? So it's something I was thinking, it was came to when I was reading this. So with the enlarge spell, when you shift up 1 size, you get an extra d4. Either your melee attacks do an extra d4 damage.
Yes.
When I giant might, I get an extra d, because I'm using the archive version. I get an extra d6 on all my attacks when I'm size large.
Right.
With this one, normally if you shift up a size category, the weapon damage goes up by 1. So it's another way, like for example, like a giant's greatsword is like 66, like a storm giant greatsword is like 66, whereas a regular greatsword is 2d6.
Because they're like size huge, and it's like 2 categories. Yeah, it's large, huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it's so it would be an extra 2d6 per
size category you go, because you're doubling the weapons dice, damage dice each time. Yeah.
Like it's kind of unclear here, and I my instincts would be no, but like if it says you become size large along with anything you're wearing, that means I suppose you don't wear weapons. Yeah.
I would, yes, maybe that's how they're kind of getting around it. But I mean, like even within large, if we're looking at how monsters are designed in the game, enlarge should technically make your weapon do 2 dice. Like if you're rolling with a greatsword, which is a d8, you should be rolling 2 d8 if you're size large, because that's what would happen to a giant when you scale them up, or to any other creature to greater size. But even in large, which is like a core part of the game, doesn't do that. It just gives you a d4.
Yeah, it specifically calls out the damage, because I do think that would be a bit crazy. I remember I was watching, it only came into my mind because I was watching a D&D short recently. I think it was from Wintry D&D, or no, Pack Tactics, I think it was. No, it wasn't. It was, Jesus Christ, Martin, get your shit together. It was Z Bashu, the guy who does the animated spellbook stuff. And what he was saying is that if you kill a giant, take its sword, and if you have someone who can cast enlarge on the fighter can now use the giant sword, and the giant sword does way more damage.
True, actually. In a situation like that, I would.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if someone is willing to go to that level of, right, we're calling in the Megazord here, like, and he points out as well, it'd be particularly broken if you pick something that was already size large, like a Minotaur. Because then it goes.
As in like for your player race?
Yeah. You pick Minotaur as a player. Oh no, sorry, they're not by default size large. They're size humanoid, size medium.
They're medium, but they qualify as size large for the purposes of carrying and objects and stuff like that.
Which means they could carry a bigger sword.
I
would absolutely try and swing that if I could, but it's just an
the sword. You'd swing the sword.
Yeah. It was an interesting thing to think about when it comes to like size changing, because I suppose it's kind of unclear, but usually my guess is their intention is no, you don't get this utterly hideous boost to your damage.
Yeah. I mean, there is damage boosts coming down the line.
The next ability, maybe my favorite ability out of any class in this entire UA. I really love this. I wish fighters had something like this in their base kit.
Before we get on to that, let's just talk about the 5-foot increase you get for this one, right?
Yes.
And this gets really here's the thing, right? It gets broken really fast, but also it doesn't, because okay, let's say you get a 5 foot increase when you grow a size large. Okay, so not only are you able to stretch 10 feet with your weapons now and make an attack with someone 10 feet away from you, but because you're occupying 4 spaces 2 by 2 on the player on the battlefield, you actually are in contact with like 10 spaces instead of being in contact with like 8, I think it is. Yeah. So instead of being in contact with 8 squares, you're in contact with 10, and then that expands further. So you actually have way more battlefield. It's exponential because not only do you get the reach ability, but also you get the ability to you are larger, so you can stretch further anyway.
Do you want to hear hell for a DM?
Are you going to talk about the thing we saw online? Because I
No.
figured this out.
No.
I'm going to go a little bit.
No.
I was ahead of that video. Just
no, just it's just 2 feats. It's just 2 feats. It's Sentinel and Polar Master.
Sentinel Polar Master.
You would be disgusting with this.
That's already a broken combo.
Sentinel Polar Master, take a pike as your weapon, so you've 10 feet range starting.
That's what I was gonna say, because the thing is, you can get crazy with this, right? If you go, take a pike as your weapon, right? You get a 5 foot increase. Take this ability, you get another 5 foot increase. That's 10 feet. Play a bugbear who gets a 5 foot increase anyway, 15 feet. And I think then at later levels in this, you get a 10 foot reach. Yeah, the 14th level, you get your reach is now 10 feet. That's 20 feet of reach without any magic items, without anything. This is all just the base stuff you can pick as a player.
Yeah.
And you have a 20 foot reach, and also your size grows bigger later in this class as well. So again, bigger size, bigger reach, and I think I worked out that you could control an area that's like a 75 by 75 foot square or something like that.
That's bigger than most buildings.
That's not even like the ability to throw your weapon in that range. Those are melee attacks.
Yeah.
Those are melee attacks you are making in a 75 by 75 square. Anyone at all who is 20 feet like near you, and you're a size huge, so you're a 3 by 3 area, you control this entire place.
It's
insane.
It's so good. It's so good and so crazy.
It gets really ridiculous, but there is actually kind of a little caveat that kind of, as good as that is, there's a caveat that kind of makes it not pointless, but a little bit like it doesn't make it as baffling when you consider this other ability that we're about to get.
Yeah.
So it's 6th level. I think it's 6th level ability.
So good.
It is.
So good.
So you bond with an element, the elemental might of the giants and their ilk, and your bond grows, and you learn to infuse weapons with primordial energy. I wonder what element will be picking, Martin.
Fire.
Poison, obviously. When you enter your rage, you can infuse a weapon of your choice that you are holding with the following damage type. One of the following damage types: acid, cold, fire, thunder, or lightning. Those last two are going to be favorites, I think.
Yeah. Very, very frightening.
While you're wielding his fused weapon, during your rage, your weapon's damage type changes to the chosen type. So you're just doing all lightning, or all thunder, or all poison. Is poison there? It's actually not there. It's cold, fire, acid. Oh my god! Imagine it's being like whipping an acid hammer at people.
Disgusting.
The damage type changes to that and also deals an extra D6 damage of the chosen type. Now, that's on every single attack you do.
And you can do this with a great axe. It specifically says it gains the thrown property. So a great axe can gain the thrown property.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, it gains the thrown properties, and that's any weapon. There's no, it doesn't say it can't be heavy or
bow,
or anything like that. You get the thrown property with any weapon that you're using, an extra 2d6 damage, and the original weapon's damage to this damage type 3, which kind of helps you overcome resistance.
Just one d6.
It's just a 1d6, but I'm saying like that's on top of the other damage dice for the weapon, which all become whatever the elemental type you choose is. And that thrown property has a range of 20 feet and a long range of 60 feet. So here's the thing: even at 6th level. Actually, no, I'll read the next one because it's important. If you throw the weapon, it reappears in your hand the instant after it hits or misses the target. The infused weapon's benefits are suppressed while a creature other than you is holding it. While raging and holding the infused weapon, you can use a bonus action to change the infused weapon's current damage type to a different one, which is great. So even at 6th level, before you get any of these additional kind of with your melee attacks to get your stupid 20-foot reach as a bugbear wielding halberd bugbear barbarian. You still have a 20-foot reach where you can Thor style throw your hammer, hit or miss, it reappears in your hand, throw it again, and you even have a long range of 60 feet. Now, obviously disadvantage, but that's really, really crazy to be able to do, to just be able to, because again, that's straight away, even when you're raging at this level, at 6th level, you're controlling a 2x2 area that you are in. Your range is 20 feet, so that's 10 feet, and then 20 on the other side is 50 foot by 50 foot area. And you can hit anyone in one of your ranged attacks by throwing any weapon, basically, even like a 2d6 maul or something like that, or a 2d6 greatsword. You could just over the head greatsword, have it whip around like a boomerang, cleave someone's head off, and reappear in your hand.
This like subclass is just full of stuff I've tried to do with my current barbarian. That's what it is. It's just literally the next ability is a thing me and Mike were trying to do in the last boss fight before Amna. That's literally a thing we were going to do.
I honestly, Martin, at this point, I'm convinced that Wizards of the Coast have your house bugged, because do you remember like years
I feel
ago,
sorry for them.
You bugged, or not bugged. You predicted.
I did.
You predicted the Ancestral Guardian Barbarian.
Yeah.
You designed Lug as a character, tattoos about him being worshipping his ancestors and all this other spirits, and then they released a Barbarian subclass. And it's like, oh, you can summon the ghosts of your ancestors, and you have to use it.
Yeah.
Like, how did they just like recreate Lug one for one? Like,
it was like I just think you remember our whole party being like, when I read it out, they were like, "The fuck, that's you!"
Yeah, but you've been playing him for like months at that point.
Yeah. We were like a couple levels in.
So yeah, that 6th level ability is absolutely insane. I feel extra damage die. Different types of damage which you can use to get around resistances, and it's not even like when you decide to rage, choose your damage type. Now it's like when you decide to rage, choose a damage type. If it's not working, bonus action, swap a damage type.
What's nuts with that is because it's free and it doesn't use a resource to change the damage type, you can fish for vulnerabilities.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You could just each turn. Technically, you could do 2 a turn. You could go, okay, I rage. Actually, you couldn't. You have to wait till the next turn. But you could be like, let's try acid. Okay, it's resistant. Okay, on the next turn, no, you'd have to do it differently. It doesn't matter. Point is, you can fish your vulnerability.
It would be like one attack around, and then like DM's like, oh, the fire damage doesn't do as much damage as you think it might have, and then you're like, oh, okay, and then okay, boom, this turn, like I can just see in my mind, or like we'll take Mjolnir for the example because it's cool, but you're holding like a warhammer and it's like its head is burst in flame. You throw it, hit the things, come back. Half damage. All right, the flames all extinguish and just there's like a shudder and the whole hammerhead like bursts out in ice spikes and you're like, cool, I'm ready. And like of course you'd have to do the Thor thing when you choose lightning, where you like He-Man hold it up in the air. Yeah, and like a lightning bolt strikes it, and you're like, I'm ready to go. Oh god, you would absolutely have to do that. Like if you're doing the Thor thing, when you throw it, you'd have to like, whoom, and like throw it like
bit it up.
Yeah, comic store. Oh man, I love it.
I did have to do a bit of a thing like that once because I was playing a wizard. I was playing with my wizard Balthazar, and we fought some trolls. We were camped behind the waterfall, and they kind of came up to the pool at the bottom of it, so we had to fight them. But the DM, here's the thing. At the time, I was like, okay, I know that it's like fire and acid is the thing that trolls are like susceptible to. But I'm like, I think I was rolling checks, or I was doing something like that. So I'm like, I don't want to just immediately do it because that kind of takes the fun out of it. I'll try a couple other things first, and I'll be like, oh, maybe I'll try lightning here. And I tried lightning, and it's like he still regenerates. Okay, cool. Next turn I tried something else. Because I had Chromatic Orb, which is a similar idea, and I was hitting him with Chromatic Orbs. And then I went to go and try fire third, and he was like, "Yeah, he's still regenerating." And I was like, "What?" And like he had already changed it to cold before the fight started, and I'm like, "Oh, so I could have actually just done fire and learned that it didn't work straight away." But I was trying to be like, not be that player who's metagaming, and it ended up meaning I had to burn a ton of spell slots to find out what was effective.
I like that though.
So that's one of the best things you can do with trolls is just pick a different damage type for that they are susceptible to catch people off guard. Up next we have 10th level Mighty Impel. Am I saying that right? Impel?
Yeah.
Your connection to giant strength allows you to hurl. Oh, this is great.
So great. This is so great.
To hurl both allies and enemies on the battlefield. As a bonus action while raging, you can choose one medium or smaller creature within your reach, or remember, your reach is also increased, and move it to an unoccupied space that you can see within 30 feet of yourself. An unwitting creature must make a strength saving throw against your DC, which is based on your strength and your proficiency, to avoid this effect. If at the end of this movement, the thrown creature isn't on a surface or liquid that can support it, the creature taking damage as normal. And so if someone is like flying away and you try to grab someone and hurl them at that person, if they don't make it, they will fall back to earth. However, as soon as I thought about this, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. It's a bonus action on your turn. You can just do it, which is great. It can be great for getting your allies into position. You basically pick them up by the scruff, huck them over to somewhere else.
Just throw the rogue at someone and go sneak attack.
It's actually, this is the fastball special built in a mechanical. Yeah. And I thought immediately when I saw this, I thought like, oh my god, imagine being a barbarian on literally any type of bridge. Any sort of like lava-based place that you're in, flying through the air, anything at all like that, you can chuck people into water, into acid, into lava, over a cliff, and all they have to do is fail one saving throw, and you just go, "Hey, see you later, bye."
There's nothing that it says about 30 feet that says a direction. You can just pick 30 feet in the air.
You could technically just flick them into the air and let them fall back down.
I love the idea of literally uppercutting someone 30 feet in the air. Just whoop.
You could actually very quickly make that into a good tactic where, like, at the start of your turn, you do your bonus action. If they fail, you throw them up, they fall back down, they take a couple of d6 damage, and then they're prone, which means your next two attacks have advantage, that you don't need to use your reckless attack.
I know, I would definitely use the first attack, like, while they're falling, though, because I just love, like, particularly if you have a hammer of just, like, right, it's that home run time, wham! Oh, God. It's just, do you know what this is? Do you know why I like this so much? Everything it does is fun. All of these abilities are fun as hell.
Absolutely. It's honestly, it's one of the best subclasses now. Now, do I think it's maybe a little overpowered? Potentially. I think that thrown ability, if you did that every single turn, you could you're kind of making, can't speak. You are basically using a bonus action to force someone to make a strength saving throw, which if they fail, your two attacks get advantage on them, and you don't need to use your reckless to do it. Because you throw them up, you can do a couple d6s damage from falling, they fall prone, you walk over, smack. I don't know if that is a little broken, or is that kind of on par, because the alternative is you just take advantage.
Because, like, stuff exists, like the Vengeance Paladin has Vow of Enmity, that's just you have attack or even advantage on this thing until it's dead.
But I'm saying, like, this is like the trade-off being like, okay, they have to fail this strength saving throw, right?
But as well, like, there's kind of some built-in balance here between the 6 and 10 abilities, because if you use your Mighty Impel, you can't change the damage type on your weapon.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you already find the damage types that's working, just each turn you can just spam this Mighty Impel thing. I just think, like, it's really good. There's maybe a little bit of room for abuse there, but, like, the alternative, right? Here's two situations. You're a barbarian. You either take Reckless, where your two attacks have advantage, and then people have an advantage against you.
Yeah.
Or you use a bonus action to try and get this additional ability. They maybe take a couple of d6s worth of fall damage, and then they fall prone. That's if they succeed, and then you get two advantage hits. I feel like you get a bit more, but they have to fail a save, whereas you can just choose to take your reckless attack. I don't think it's too broken. I don't even know. It's I don't think it is. I feel like what you get out of it basically is in one scenario you get two advantage attacks, and the other scenario you get two advantage attacks and a couple of d6s worth of fall damage.
It'll be 2d6 because it's 20 feet above 10 feet.
I think technically the rule is you should be 3d6, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it not? It's a d6 for every foot above 10 feet, isn't it?
I rule it that way because I feel like people should be able to fall 10 feet without, taking damage.
No, Connor.
Martin, when you're playing basically fucking superheroes in Fantasyland,
fair.
How many times in a superhero show do you watch someone get launched 10 feet or 30 feet across a room into a stone wall, cracks behind them,
and
they just get up and dust themselves off, and they just get back into it like your body should be broken.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fair. Do you know what? That's fair.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I rule it. Because I just feel like if you fall 10 feet, or if you just want to jump off of something 10 foot, you shouldn't have to potentially take 6 points of damage or five, whatever it is, just to hop down off a 10 foot thing. As a hero, you should be able to jump down off a ledge and be like, get into a fight or something. Again, that's a home. We'll do that on our next homebrew rules episode. We have, how'd you pronounce this?
Demiurgic.
Demiurgic. What's that mean? Like deity?
I think so. I literally would have. Do you know the way when you know a word, but you only know like you? It's more. It's more. Yeah. It's more like I know the feeling of the word. I believe it's something to do with like divine, or I'm literally looking it up now.
Demiurgic Colossus.
A powerful force or personality. What is it?
Okay, that makes sense. So, Demiurgic Colossus, 14th level, capstone ability for the subclass. The primordial power of your rage intensifies.
Oh, sorry. It's a being responsible for the creation of the universe.
Okay, that tracks. When you rage, Christ.
Do you want me to do this one?
Increases by 10 feet. Your size increases to huge, and you can now use your mighty impel to move creatures that are large or smaller. You can be kicking ogres or throwing ogres off of ledges. In addition, the extra damage dealt by the elemental cleaver ability does 2d6 now. So let's say you have a maul, okay? Mm-hmm. You now control an area where you have, in this scenario where we're playing a halberd wielding bugbear in this subclass, you have 20 foot of reach.
Yeah.
But you yourself are 15 by 15 foot, which means that 20 foot in every direction out from you, you also control. So that's 20 and 20 is 40, and then add 15 on top of that, it's 55. Sorry, it's a 55 by 55 area. You control a 55 by 55 area, and they're all melee attacks. And if you have a maul, you can choose to be like, I want to do acid damage. And that does 2d6 acid damage for the maul itself, and then an additional 2d6 acid damage for this ability. And that again, you can just choose to hit anyone in this 55 by 55 foot space.
Do you know what's even worse? You only need to go 14 levels to get Demiurgic Colossus. So you could spend those other 6 levels multiclassing. You could go into Fighter, take Rune Knight, and get Action Surge.
Yeah.
And that's at that point you just turn into a. Did you know that thing in Wipeout that comes along and just smashes people into the water?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the point where you just turn into that, like, or you just turn the room into the inside of a blender.
It's basically, I mean, like, just imagine like having something like a huge what are they called? That's not a Guandao. Guandao is kind of a glaive. Glaives have reach as well, don't they?
Yeah, glaives have reach.
So you can play a glaive and you're basically spinning around like a huge blender, chopping
the like Thanos sword.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is so that's it. That's it for the subclass. This is without a doubt one of the coolest subclasses we've got in a while. It is incredibly powerful.
This is a subclass built from my dumb ideas in D&D.
This is just the most Thor you can possibly get.
This is a Barb subclass written by someone who really likes Thor comics and really likes X-Men comics.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much. And you know what? I'm okay with it.
Oh, and you could totally play a Colossus type character with this. Like Colossus from the X-Men, he's just because he's a normal sized human when he's not like all steel, all metalled out like. So you could totally do a thing where like, and you're like, I would even like if I'm playing this, you damn sure my appearance changes when I shift into my giant mode based on a specific elemental titan like.
And that's the kind of beauty of it as well, because you could play. Maybe
you could pick like famous giants from different cultures, like because you can choose your. Do you have to just choose? When you while raging, you gain the following benefits.
There's nothing really appearance-based bar your size increasing.
Yeah,
so
sorry,
you can choose what you look like if you want.
So like,
actually,
you could pick like Surtur from Norse mythology for the fire giant and stuff.
Like it actually does say here, during rage, a barbarian may take after legendary storm giant, a hair turning eyes, crackling with lightning, or adopt more monstrous features of an apocalyptic giant. So it does say that there is a visual thing that you can choose if you want, where like your eyes could be bleeding fire, and maybe like your skin turns black and ashy and cracks, like it's all dried out. Like you could only be like a monstrous fire giant that just erupts out of a man. You know,
if I picked fire for that, I would absolutely make myself look like Sartor at the end of Thor Ragnarok. Like,
you know what? Do you know what'd be cool? If you play like a tiefling to get the horns.
Yeah,
but then like tieflings are just infernal bloodlines appearing in other races. So you could be like, oh, I'm as big as a Goliath. I'm Goliath with an infernal heritage. So I look about 7 or 8 feet tall with horns coming out of me, and then I get big.
Sick.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be so sick. Oh, hey, yeah, now you just look like Asmodeus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you can just be this hell. That's a great thing about it. You can just choose like, it isn't. I know I keep saying it's like the Thor class, but really you can play anything with this. Like we just said you could be a giant fire giant like Searcher or something like that. You could also be like, I'm a tiefling and I grow and my weapon has fire, and now I'm actually just some infernal hell demon that like, so I'm not, you could rephrase it so it's not giants necessarily, but instead I'm drawing on demonic power and growing up to be like, if you're watching,
I would say you'd change it to like, you draw, instead of like legendary storm giants, you draw on the princes of hells.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you could become like an avatar of them as they embody you, and you absolutely wreck the battlefield. Very cool. So we're gonna move on. We have up next the Druid, the Circle of the Primeval. Do you want to read this because my mouth is just not.
Yeah, no matter. I'll happily take this because this one actually, just in terms of mechanically how it works, is actually quite similar to the Wildfire Spirit, which I have a decent amount of experience with.
Which we talked about last week on our Druids episode.
Yes. Also a great Druid subclass. The Circle of Primeval teaches that though the land may change over time, it never truly forgets. By tapping into the time-worn memory of the earth, these druids summon and bond with the spirit of a primeval behemoth, a hulking creature that once ruled the ancient world alongside giants. But do you know what's funny about this? I actually mentioned the Tudok the Barbarian homebrew subclass Circle of Bones in our last episode, and that was specifically a subclass where you like turn into a kaiju. So it's like the more direct version of this. Apologies. The most well-known primeval behemoths are the dinosaurs, but spirits bonded with members of the Circle of the Primeval have also taken the form of ancient predecessors to today's common beasts and other fantastical titanic creatures. Working alongside their companion spirit, most druids of the Circle of the Primeval is a mouthful, spend their lives delving into long-forgotten places and preserving the remnants of bygone eras. As the druid's power grows, so does their companion, the beast starting near equal in size to its druid partner, before increasing in stature until it too towers over the land. What's really cool there is they have actually given you a key, a little push towards the character concept in that little blurb there. You could play an archaeologist druid with this.
True. Yeah.
Indiana Bones.
Did you say Indiana Bones?
Yes, I did. Okay.
It's a very cool subclass and concept. It's like you said, it's very similar to the Wildfire Druid, but I do feel like it's distinct enough that you get your own flavor. Whereas the Wildfire Druid focuses on kind of the life that fire can give, and the idea of that what's it called, the bloom that happens after forest fires.
It's the balance of like the destructive side versus the regenerative side of forest fires. It's the consuming flame versus the phoenix that is reborn.
Yeah, as soon as this one came out, and we'll get into it properly, but you do get a companion. They recommend dinosaurs, and I think that's pretty cool. But there's nothing that says that this companion can't appear in literally any form. It could be a Goliath that can. Yeah. I should say. It could be an Earth Elemental. Immediately, I thought, oh, what if we had a Torterra with the Pokemon, where it's like a turtle with plants growing out of its back, and then you're just kind of sitting on its back, riding it along as it like marches.
Like the witch's house in God of War.
Sort of, yeah. But I actually, I can get to size huge eventually. So yeah, you could totally do that, Jim.
One I thought of as well was it's both Dark Souls and Nostalgia. If you want to go down the Norse mythology route, you could literally have Fenrir be your Fenrir the wolf, like that swallows the sun. You could have that be your primeval companion, or if you're a Dark Souls fan, you could take like the more martial spells. And do like a druid version of Knight Artorias, who has this like giant great grey wolf called Sif, who like he taught how to fight with a sword and stuff. All very, very cool. It's a really fun idea for a class, and their first level features is Keeper of Old. Second level feature. Your connection to the mighty primeval behemoth allows you new insight into the ancient world. You gain proficiency in history, and when you make an intelligence history check, you can roll the d4 and add the number rolled to the ability check. I like that because it's your connection to the ancient world. So it's like you're making a history check to try and remember something, and you get the additional d4 because the spirits of the ancient world are like whispering in your ear.
That's actually a mechanic that we've seen pop up a couple of different times now, where you just all the time have a D4 bonus to this, to a skill check, instead of being like you have expertise or whatever. This is a new mechanic they've introduced, and a couple other things in the past, I don't know, 6 months or 8 months maybe. I like it. I like it. It's mostly because rolling extra. So having like, here's my D20 and also a D4, I'll roll them. But yeah, that's cool.
I'd actually quite like that feature for the Ancestral Guardian. I think it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you get a couple of kind of similar things where you put clairvoyance and stuff, and they can tell you
consult
things.
The spirits. Yeah, it's that same, but like that's still good. But now we get into the real meat of the thing. Is the Primeval Companion, which you also get at 2nd level. Starting when you choose a circle, you can call upon the primeval creature whose spirit is bound to you. As an action, you expend 1 use your wild shape feature to summon your Primeval Companion, rather than assuming a beast form. Exactly the same way that Wildfire Spirit works. The companion appears in your unoccupied space of your choice within 30 feet. The Primeval Companion is friendly to you and your companions and obeys your commands. See this creature's game stats, and so they have a stat block for it there. You can determine the cosmetic appearance of the companion. For example, your companion may evoke ancient predators like raptors or saber-toothed tigers, or it might be more inclined for defense, appearing as an armored ankylosaurus or a woolly rhino. These choices have no effect on the companion's game statistics. So yeah, like you're saying, you can literally pick whatever you want. Like if you want Reptar to be your damn companion, you can.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, Tommy Pickles is a druid.
Yeah.
In combat, the companion shares your initiative count, but it takes its turn immediately after yours. It can move and use its reactions on its own, but the only action it takes on its turn is the dodge action, unless you take a bonus action on your turn to command it to take another one. Again, exactly the same way the Wildfire Spirit works. The action can be one in its stat block or some other action. If you were incapacitated, the companion can take any action of its choice, not just dodge, which is cool. I like that. Like you go, like normally it just does what it tells you, but if you go down and it sees you go down, it kind of goes frenzy. You could you could have an attack and try and defend for you.
Yeah.
The companion remains until it's reduced to 0 hit points, or until you die, at which point the companion vanishes. If you use this feature to summon the companion again, and you already have a companion present, the first companion immediately vanishes, and the companion was wearing or carrying is left behind when it vanishes. All very much the same rules that they use for most of the summoned creatures now that we have shown up in stat blocks, like your ranger, swarm keeper stuff and all that.
Actually, a very interesting point is that anything your companion is wearing or carrying means they can wear stuff. You can give them magic items and stuff to buff them out if you want.
Yeah, that would be class. So we've the stat block for the Primeval Companion here. So starting out, it is a medium beast, neutral.
I think you were reading the word medium and the word primeval above it.
Yeah, definitely. Armor class of AC 13 plus your proficiency bonus. So starting out, that'll only be like 1, but eventually by the time you get to level 16, that'll be not level 16, but 17.
19 armor class.
19 AC, which is very solid for a pet. Hit points is 10 plus 5 times your druid level, which is always, anytime it's like 5 times your level, as soon as you get past 2, it just starts to stack exponentially, and it's really, really, really good. By level 5, that creature has 35 HP, which is probably more than a 5th level wizard.
Yeah, do you know what? Yeah, pretty much. Also, when you max that out, it's 110 hit points. And actually, they have some abilities, I think, later on that give them more temporary hit points. So you can make them really, really good. Yeah, really, really tough, really, really beefy, and good damage sponges.
Yeah, they'd be really, really good fun damage sponges. Speed 30 feet, which good, solid, not an unusual. Their stats actually is like base stats. The physical ones at least are really good. Like 15 strength, 15 dex, 17 con. And int wiz and charisma are a bit worse, but it's 6 int, 12 wiz, which isn't terrible, and 8 charisma.
I feel like that kind of tracks though. I mean, like this creature isn't meant to be.
Yeah.
It's really more of a dumb psychic. Yeah. That you'll do the thinking. It will do what you want to do. Then so it doesn't, having poor stats like that isn't the worst thing. Yeah. It could potentially be with low charisma and stuff and with low wisdom and stuff. It could potentially be charmed and used against you.
That would be fun. That would be very fun. Oh god, the betrayal. That would be amazing. I know, because then when the charm fades and it realizes it's hurt its master, that would be so good.
It's like that scene in How to Train Your Dragon, is it 2, where your man has some sort of hope. Is it 2? Have you not seen it?
I have not seen those movies.
Oh, well, you should watch them. They're really, really good. But there's a scene where Toothless, Toothless.
I know Toothless.
The black dragon. Yeah. They're obviously best friends and they're kind of great. and then there's this more powerful dragon that, like, the hierarchy of dragons, all the other dragons are like instinctually compelled to listen to it, and Toothless turns on them and hurts them, and then his eyes, the pupils get really narrow, I think, and he hurts them, and then after a second it wears off, and his eyes turn back to his normal cute face, and he doesn't realize what happened or what he did wrong, and they're like, "Get away from us!" and they're scared of him, and it's honestly hard, but
I'm cruel. I think that would be a lot of fun to do as a DM and role play.
I would too, and I'm not ashamed to say it.
Yeah, it's actually got pretty decent saves as well. It's got saves and pretty much the ones you'd want it to, really. Dex and Con, +2/+3, both with your proficiency bonus added in. It's got dark vision out to 60 feet, which is really good. Understands all the languages you speak. So if you're Druid and you have a decent amount of languages, so does your creature. So other party members could talk to it as well, which is fun. And then its actions: strike is a melee weapon attack, and a +2 plus your proficiency bonus to hit, reach of 5 foot, and one target does 1d8 plus proficiency bonus, bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing, obviously depending on what you say it has.
Like, what type of creature you summon? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like if you like when I thought about bludgeoning, I immediately thought about like summoning a bull to just like charge someone down. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
It's got a really cool reaction, actually. I like intercept attack. When a creature the companion can see hits a target with an attack, and the target is within 5 feet of the companion, the target instead takes half the damage. The companion takes the remainder of the damage.
This is what makes them such a good blocker and such a good damage sponge, is that they can, as a reaction, just take half the damage from an attack to defend someone else, which is great.
It's I really like it. It's a lot of a lot of the fun stuff that's in the defender martial role for the warrior sidekick.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that kind of similar fun. 6th level, you get Prehistoric Conduit, which you learn how to channel your magic through your Primeval Companion. When you cast a spell with a range other than itself, it can originate from you or your companion. In addition, the Primeval Companion is affected by a spell that you cast and allows creatures to make a save. If the Primeval Companion is affected by a spell that you cast that allows creatures to make a saving throw against its effects, the Primeval Companion has advantage on the save. If they would normally take half the damage on a successful save against the spell, they instead take no damage and half damage with no additional effects on a failed save. So you basically can use your creature now as like a missile silo for your spells, I suppose, is the best way I can put it. And then you also give it evasion, but it's not limited to dexterity.
Again, I just have such a strong idea in my head of this creature being like the Adamantoise in like Final Fantasy.
I think so. You finally found the Druid concept to play, Connor.
You know what? I might do as well. But because as soon as I think its creature size medium for now, but it does get bigger later.
It will eventually get huge.
I'm just picturing like my Druid, like some sort of stone Druid. Maybe he's sitting legs crossed on top of down along the road. Yeah. His mount, and then like when it comes time to fight, you're just sitting on top of him. He can block damage for you. And when you mentioned a missile silo, for some reason I was back opening up and like spells just shooting out.
That would be amazing. Oh my god. Yeah, it's a really, really cool, like, legit, man. I think you think this is your Druid concept. If you're ever to play a Druid, it's very, very cool. This is where things start to get very interesting, though. With the 10th level feature, Titanic Bond. The Primeval Companion grows to size large, and when you summon it, you can grant it either a climbing speed or swimming speed equal to its walking speed, which is awesome. In turn, the Primeval Companion lends you some of its terrifying might. Once per turn, when your Primeval Companion is summoned, when you hit a creature with an attack or deal damage to a creature you can see with a spell you cast, you can force that creature to make a Wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. On failure, the creature is frightened of you until the end of your next turn. Which, if it's a spell, you could just keep someone way back.
Yeah.
Which is pretty sick. Fear is pretty strong.
We unfortunately learned that a couple weeks ago.
I learned that the hard way there in the last boss fight we had. But this is where it gets really, really nutty, and where like you see the full potential of the primeval spirit kind of unleashed, I suppose. Scourge of the Ancients, which is as titles for abilities go, that's pretty good. You've learned to fully harness the Titanic legacy of your companion. As part of the bonus action you use to command your companion, you can expend a spell slot of any level to heighten your primeval companion's might, granting it the following benefits. Hulking Behemoth. The companion becomes huge and gains temporary hit points equal to 10 times the level of the spell slot expended. If there is enough room for the companion to become huge, it attains the maximum possible size. So like, You can use a second level spell slot, give this thing 20 extra HP, it's size huge now.
If it gains, okay, it's temporary hit points. Okay, but yeah, but I mean, like that's, and it's nothing since you can't keep doing this turn after turn. Just and now you're burn through spell slots pretty fast. But like, it's great that you could use this thing as like to block damage. You could like, he can be like soaking up damage for you. You're just spending spell slots like 10 times the level of the crazy when you consider like at this level he 70 plus 10. Am I right on that? So 80 hit points, I think, at this level.
Yeah.
And then you can just keep pumping temp HP on as a bonus action every single turn, as part of the same action you use to tell him to go over there and hit this.
It's very, very cool. Like it's kind of similar with the Wildfire. Like a thing Mike does with Mushu, his Wildfire Spirit, a lot will be he will send, because he has Fireball, he will send the cat into the middle of a group of enemies, and then shoot Fireball out of it centered on him. Because the Wildfire Spirit obviously is immune to fire damage.
Yeah.
So it's just he's just a walking little napalm bomb, like, and you can do a lot of the same kind of really fun stuff with these guys. The next kind of modification you can make to your Wildfire Spirit is Mauler. On a hit, Companion Strike deals an additional damage equal to 1d8 plus the level of the spell slot expended. So we'll say for argument's sake, we'll say it's a 5th level spell you use. That would be a d8. That would be 2d8 plus 5, plus the creature's strength, which I think by that level will probably be fairly. Does it scale up? Like it's at least a +2. Like we'll just take it as 15. So that's like 2d8 plus 7 on each attack, which is nothing to sneeze at.
If you do go something like a +2, yeah, at 14, yeah, 14 level would be +5 for your proficiency. The normal hit is a d8 plus proficiency, so yeah, 5, and then whatever, spell 7. Yes, 2d. Sorry, I had to run the math. Yes, 2d8 plus 7 was exactly right when you said it correctly 30 seconds ago, Martin. I apologize.
Yeah, I slightly misunderstood it though. So between the both of us, we both got it right. I thought it was based off strength. It's actually based off proficiency bonus, which is even better because that means by the time you get to 20 level, that's +6.
Yeah,
which is
and like it's so wait, this is so wait, how does this work then? Oh, hit my mic. So as part of the bonus action you use to command your companion. Okay, I see. So does that mean that does the companion only become? Oh no, it lasts for an hour. Never mind. Sorry, at the end of this ability lasts for an hour, so you only need to spend that additional HP thing. You could, I suppose, use it more if you wanted to for the temp HP and keep pumping health into this thing. But I mean, you do that, and like if you want to drop like an 8th level spell slot with a high enough level, like that's going to be 190 health, and then this thing is going to be doing 2d8 plus 6 plus 8, so 14. 2d8 plus 14 damage on a hit per turn, and also its walking speed increases.
I severely misread this the first time.
Right.
I thought it was you choose one of those 3. No, it gets all 3 benefits.
Oh, it gets all of them. Yeah.
Oh my god.
And also the third thing is Titanic Stride. Its walking speed increases by a number equal to 5 times the level of the spell. So again, you drop an 8th level.
40 feet.
You're talking about 40 feet. That's a 70 feet of speed. 2d8 plus 14 damage on a hit, and it has 190 hit points.
This thing is a monster.
This thing's unreal. Yeah. And then again, that lasts for an hour.
Oh my god.
Or until the companion vanishes, or until you expend a spell slot for this feature again, in which case it would like readjust.
This is totally your Pokemon trainer build, actually. Excuse me. This is totally your
Pokemon
trainer build. Because you even have where you summon it initially when you're lower level. It's it's a like size medium. You get to a higher level, then it grows. So you can literally do Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard.
Yeah.
So
cool. It's very, very cool. I love all the subclasses here. I love this one a lot.
Yeah.
It's very do you know what? It has a lot of similarities to Wildfire in its structure. Yeah. But I was just looking at Wildfire Druids there, and we'll take for example the 14th level ability. The 14th level ability of this. Here's something, a capstone that makes the creature you summon way, way better in terms of damage, health, and speed. The capstone ability of the Wildfire
one is pretty nuts, to be fair.
Oh no, it's good, but I mean, like the focus is entirely different. The Wildfire one is Blazing Revival, The bond with your Wildfire Spirit can save you from death. If the spirit is within 120 feet of you, you are reduced to 0 hit points and thereby fall unconscious. You can cause the spirit to drop to 0 hit points. You then regain your hit points immediately and rise to your feet. You can't use this feature again until you take a long rest. That is an entirely different focus for the 14th level ability. Because, like, I mean, we'll say for Toxic, it could have been very, very easy for them to design the Wildfire and this tandem, and then the 14th level ability is like your creature gets but the 14th level ability of the Wildfire has different focus while still being a druid that can summon a companion of some kind, you know?
Yeah, and like I actually really like that they have based this like mechanically or structurally rather on the Wildfire, because I much prefer that style and that format that they have for like companion summoning creatures than what it was previously, where it was very messy. Like I've DM'd the Wildfire Spirit now from literally 7 levels now, and like it's great. I have very, very few problems with it. I basically have no problems with the Wildfire Spirit whatsoever. It's a really great class and lots of versatility, lots of really fun stuff. Yeah, like it's really great. And
could you take this class, take the Circle of Primeval, right? Say that your companion looks like a T-Rex. Summon him with all these additional health points and blah blah blah, right? So he has 190 health points speed, and then polymorph him into a T-Rex so that when he drops to 0 points as a T-Rex, he just becomes a T-Rex with 190 health points.
I thought you were about to say, could you say it's a T-Rex and then stat him up with all these magical benefits and be like, oh, it's a dragon now. And by the way, I'm calling it right now after this has come out. Give it like 6 months. There's going to be a UA where you summon a dragon as a druid.
You know what? I think the idea came because Rangers obviously get Beastmaster. And that was kind of at the start of the game, that was like the only subclass that let you summon a companion or have a companion. Obviously, you have the Artificer one now, the Battlesmith. Battlesmith, thank you. You have this and the Wildfire Druid. You have the Swarm Keeper, the Drake Warden, and the Beastmaster, and then is that all? I think it's all. But you have a bunch of different ones, basically summon a companion creature with you. But in previous editions, druids used to be the ones that got to summon all of their
they were
like,
and
only recently did we get the ability as an optional class feature that you got Find Familiar. Find Familiar does not appear on the druid spell list. Only recently did you get the optional class feature where you can learn that spell and summon a like a fox or a hawk or something like that for your self. So like it really feels like they're doubling down on that. And I want to be a druid with a pet, and honestly, it makes a lot of sense because druids, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You're literally the Disney princess standing there with like all the birds like nesting in your hands and on your shoulders and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I forgot. All you with the feats, if you want, or I can chip in here and there because I've gone over these a decent bit.
Yes, I'm going to go through the last one. We'll go through this last one, and then we'll try and get as many of the feats done as we can.
Sorry, I entirely forgot about the third subclass. That's also really awesome.
That's really awesome. This one is the Wizard Rune Crafter. Rune Crafter wizards enhance their spellcasting through the ancient power of rune. Through this tradition originated in the giant rune casters of old, runecraft magic has expanded to encompass countless languages and practitioners across different worlds. For many runecrafters, the runes they wield are every bit as unique and personal as their spellbook. Some strive to honor the practices originated from the giants, engraving their runes on decorative stones and that adorn their spell implements, while others messily scribble their runes on scrap paper.
I would tattoo them on myself.
Or tattoo them on yourself. So first off, we have a cool one here. This last, I think, would make a fantastic... You mentioned a while ago about
Sorry, you cut out there.
Oh, sorry. You mentioned a while ago about the druid being a great historian or like architect or archaeologist or something. Yeah. I think this would be amazing for one. So first off, we get an ability to, primarily or partially at least because of this first ability. It's called Runes of Understanding. You study the runecraft has unlocked the ability to decode runes and languages regardless of their origin. You always have comprehend languages prepared. You can cast it without expending a spell slot, and the spell doesn't count against the number of You basically can read all languages all the time.
It's basically the Warlock invocation now uses the Rune Keeper.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is actually really appropriate.
Yeah, she is. Great, cool ability first off. And again, if you're going to build like a historian style character, great way to start. Second level ability you get is Ruminic Empowerment. So second level ability, when you choose this subclass, you learn how to amplify your magic through the application of various runes. Your knowledge of these runes is stored in your spellbook through though you determine these runes' cosmetic appearance. For example, the runes could be engraved in the cover of your spellbook and glow when you cast a spell, or you could work to shape and meaningful runes directly. When you cast a spell, you can evoke one of the following runes. First off, we have the Life rune. When you evoke the rune, you choose a creature you can see within 30 feet, and you can choose yourself as listed there. And the chosen creature gains temporary hit points equal to 5 times expended. Wizards can't heal, except now they can. So immediately that's really good, and that's casting a spell. You cast a spell. You can cast Chromatic Orb, Witch Bolt, whatever you want to do. It has to use a spell slot.
It's the only time Disintegrate will ever heal someone.
Yes, true, exactly. But that's it. You could be like Disintegrate, Fireball, whatever, and also you get some health points back, which is great. And it's not even the temporary HP, but still, that's nice. The next one up is the War rune. I should say. When you evoke this rune, choose a creature you can see within 30 feet of you. Until the end of your next turn, attack rolls against it, or the chosen creature gain a bonus equal to half the level of the spell slot rounded up. So if you pick a third level spell, you pick the target of the spell. A half your target? No, just choose a creature you can see within 30 feet. So it doesn't even have to necessarily be. But you can I'd be like, everybody, I just used a third level spell slot. You have a +2 to all your attack rolls until the start of my next turn. Go nuts. Really cool ability.
Very, very cool.
It's the end of your next turn, even better. Because then you get the bonus as well if you want to do something on your next turn.
Yes.
Next up is the Wind rune. When you evoke this rune, your speed increases. This is great. Speed increases by a number of 5 times the spell level used. And your movement does not provoke opportunity attacks. This lasts until the start of your next turn. So if you get yourself in a really, really tight bind, you could cast something like Thunder Wave or something like that, get a bonus to your speed, no opportunity attacks, push people back, and then just bolt out of there. Really, really cool.
Yeah, Misty Step. I missed it kind of already. Never mind.
You can evoke no more than 1 rune per spell, and you can use the feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain all of them on long rest. That's really, really great. I absolutely love that. It's extra flavor to your spells. I think the idea of having these runes either etched into your book or somehow some other way on your person is really kind of cool.
I realized there at this 6th level, sorry, not 6th level, but the Runic Empowerment does state it has to be somehow in your spellbook.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, it says
that's still pretty cool though.
Yeah, it's still pretty cool.
Up next we have Sigils of Warding, pardon me, or if you're Matt Mercer, it's Sigils of Warning. You can call on the runes. So this is great. This is actually another really, really great ability. You can call on the rune to protect rune of protection to guard yourself against threats. When you fail a strength, dexterity, or constitution saving throw, you can use a reaction to expend one of your runic empowerment uses and succeed on the saving throw instead. That, my friend, is what we call legendary resistances. Yes. And you now have them as a wizard.
Yes, you have. It's so good. It's so good. Like
it's limited to strength, dex, and con, but realistically, you're going to have good intelligence.
Yeah, most other things are probably pretty solid on. Like
yeah. So that's really, really great. It does require you to burn your uses of that, but again, because it's a legendary resistance, essentially, you get to roll, see how you do, and if you then fail, then you can choose to just succeed instead.
Exactly.
So it's nice that you get it again. It has the benefits, all the benefits of a legendary. 10th level ability is Rune Maven. Your understanding of runes has grown immensely. Whenever you also regain a number of expended uses of Runic Empowerment. The number of uses you regain can be no more than half of your intelligence modifier rounded up. So you can actually get a few of them back along with spell slots when you use this, your Arcane, which is one of the handier things that wizards have, which is great. because again, that's more legendary resistances, that's more additional effects, or that's more healing you can do, that's speed and lack of opportunity attacks you can get and everything.
Yeah.
It's very, very good. And finally, the 14th level ability, Engraved Enmity. You have mastered the art of wielding your runes directly against your foes. As a bonus action, you can target one creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself. The creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your spell save by an enmity. The enmity rune, this is just giving me flashbacks to Eru.
Vow of Enmity.
Vow of Enmity. The enmity rune
God, I love that.
as a faint glowing mote of energy that hovers over the marked creature, which suffers the following effect. The creature has disadvantage on which suffers the following effects to all these effects. The creature has disadvantage on saving throws made against spells you cast, which is great. That's the Runecraft's Bane. Then you have Unveiled. The radiance of the glowing rune makes the creature visible if invisible, and the creature cannot become invisible while the rune persists. And Woeful Curse. When you mark a creature as a bonus action on subsequent turns for the duration, you can invoke the Enmity rune to curse the creature until the start of your next turn. The next time one of your allies hits the creature with an attack roll, the target also takes a D8 force damage, and the curse ends. So that is something you have to. So wait, is that the? Oh, that's
it works like Hunter's Mark. You just reapply as a bonus action, each turn.
Yes, so you have to take a bonus action. The next hit from one of your allies that lands gets the extra D8, but then you have to use the bonus action again on a subsequent turn to mark them again that way.
Exactly.
That makes sense. The rune lasts for 1 minute or until you lose your concentration, as if you were concentrating on a spell. That is one thing to take note of. So you can't use this with other concentrations. Once you mark the creature in this way,
would benefit from Warcaster.
Say again. Oh, it would, yeah. Because if it's a spell, you have advantage on saving throws to maintain concentration. Once you've marked a creature in this way, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of 3rd level or higher to use it again. So this is when this is the full Engraved Enmity.
Yes.
So because it's kind of like it's like an effect within an effect. For the full Engraved Enmity, that is once per long rest, or if you burn a spell slot of 3rd level or higher to do it again. But within that, when the Woeful Curse is active, you can continue using bonus actions on each of your subsequent turns for as long as that one to do that additional D8 force damage from your allies. As a curiosity. Yeah, when next time a creature hits with an attack roll, so that could also be spell attacks as well, and they get the extra force damage. That's excellent. This is also really cool. This reminds me a little bit of flavor that runic sorcerer that Mercer has in the
Rune Child
book.
Yeah.
The Rune Child. Yeah, a little bit. This is more straightforward.
I was going to say this is far easier to understand, I think.
Yeah, I like the Rune Child, but it's a little like it would say it wouldn't be a class I recommend to a player.
Yeah, it's a bit
lot
complex.
of levels there.
Yeah.
But this is very straightforward and very cool. And yeah, makes me want to make a Goliath wizard just to break all the stereotypes.
Very cool. Yeah. It would be very, very cool to do it. I just love I love runic sorcery. Runic magic is very, very cool. I like the whole thing. It always reminds me of like kind of like the Sanctum Sanctorum and stuff, where like, you know, you have your place and there's all these like runic wards all up around to like dampen magic and keep out enemies and protect you and all this stuff. And it's also like ties to like real world stuff. Like I have a tattoo there on my arm. That is the Helm of Awe from Norse mythology, well, not mythology, but Norse history. And what that was, that is a rune that Viking warriors would paint on their forehead between their eyebrows, and it was supposed to make you invulnerable in battle and like cast a terror spell on anyone you fought. So I very much like that whole kind of idea with the runic wizard, and I also just really like that you can like passively augment your spells as you cast them to have different effects. It's almost like a small touch of sorcerer in with the wizard.
It's meta magic-esque. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
it's very fun. It's great wizards. I like if I was going to play a wizard, I'd give it a serious look.
I always go back and forth when it comes to like with sorcerers, because when you think about it, a wizard is like a sorcerer, someone who can do a spell because they can feel it. They know how to just make a spell happen, right? A wizard is someone who can make a spell happen because they have studied the exact parameters that need to happen for the spell to work this way. But in my mind, a wizard should technically be the person with meta magic because they can look at how it and understand how it works and tweak parts of it, like a coding thing, like writing code or something like
I
that.
suppose they have that already though in the which wizard subclass is it where you can change a fireball into like an acid ball? Is it the war wizard?
Oh, I don't think so. One second, I'll find out for you. Because I think there is something like that, but is that not the a meta magic as well?
There is a meta magic for it, but I'm pretty sure there's also like a wizard subclass that lets you change the damage type of your spells.
Oh, I know like War Wizard gets like I think some additional force damage on it, but the whole thing doesn't change the force damage. Modifier dispel. Yeah, I can't remember now to be honest with you. Even the evocation doesn't get that, right?
I'm pretty sure. I know it's definitely one of the newer wizard subclasses. Hang on, I'm literally like scrolling through now so I can see the schools.
Yeah, is it scribes? How do you scribes?
I don't think it's scribes. This must be fascinating for people listening.
I know what you're talking about because there is someone in a subclass that to do that. I think you have to expend something else to do it. But I know that there is a new sorcerer meta magic option that came out with Tasha's that lets you do the same thing. So you can make acid fireballs and crazy stupid stuff like that. But I'm not seeing it in wizard. But again, I had this idea in my head. There is a wizard that can do it. It's a transmutation.
I don't.
No, it's not.
I swear to God, I know. Like I remember. It might be maybe an older version of a UA that didn't make it through.
Maybe. It sounds familiar to me, but again, I am drawing a bit of a blank on it in terms of wizards. Martin, would you like to go through a couple of the feats with us? Because not only did we get 3 subclasses, but we got a feats which are all giant themed and rune themed.
We did. There's kind of the major ones are really the giant ones and the rune ones, and an interesting thing to note is that we're also seeing more carry on from the way that they like structurally designed the feats that we saw in both Strixhaven and Heroes of Krynn, where we have feats that have a certain prerequisite. For example, we have a couple of giant related feats, and they all have level requirements tied with them. Now, thankfully, they are 4th and 8th levels, so those are levels where everyone gets a feat. Once you're 4th or 8th level, it's not tied to a class; it's your character level. So we have Ember of the Fire Giant, which is an 8th level requirement, Fury of the Frost Giant, which is 4th, Guile of the Cloud Giant, which is 8th, and Keenness of the Stone Giant, which is also 8th. And then we have
That's actually 4th.
4th, sorry. And then I was looking at the following two. Then we have another pair of another 8 and another 4, which is Soul of the Storm Giant, which is 8th level, and Vigor of the Hill Giant, which is 4th. And then the other real big kind of one in these feats is we get the Rune Carver feats, Rune Carver Apprentice and Rune Carver Adept.
And they're the ones that function like the Krynn and Strix ones, where you need to have one to then take the next one, and you kind of advance further down. It's almost like a career.
Yeah, exactly.
Built-in feats.
Exactly. Yeah. It's almost like a career. Out of all the giant ones, all basically evoke a specific kind of giant and relate that to like an effect. For example, with Fire Giants, it's the Ember of the Fire Giant. This is the 8th level one. You've manifested the fiery emblematic of Fire Giants, granting you the following benefits. You've resisted Born of Flame, you get resistance to fire damage. Searing Ignition, you can take the attack action on your turn. When you take the attack action on your turn, you can replace one of your attacks with a magical burst of flame. Each creature of your choice within 15 feet of you must make a dex save DC equals 8 plus proficiency plus your constitution modifier, which I like quite a lot. On a failed save, the creature takes fire damage equal to 2d6 plus your proficiency bonus and is blinded until the start of your next turn. On a successful save, half as much damage, no additional effects, and you can use your Searing Ignition a number of times equal to proficiency bonus, and you regain all uses on a long rest. Now, structurally and mechanically, that's how pretty much all these focus. Not focus rather, but all of them are formatted where they have a passive component and an active component. So like with the Frost Giant one, you get resistance to cold damage. Or with the Cloud Giant one, there isn't actually one for the Cloud Giant one.
Cloud Giant is there, but its passive as you gain proficiency in either Deception or Persuasion. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability checks you make using that skill. And then it has a Misty Form ability where you can cast Blur without using a spell slot.
Yeah.
And then which actually doesn't require concentration, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you can't do so again until you either use another spell slot that you have for the appropriate level, or until you complete a long rest, I believe it is. Yes.
I think the one I like the most is the Soul of the Storm Giant. It's another one where you need 8 level for it. You manifest divination abilities and Tempest magic, emblematic of Storm Giants, granting you the following benefits. Maelstrom Aura. As a bonus action, you surround yourself in an aura of magical wind and lightning that extends 10 feet away from you in every direction, but not through total cover. The aura lasts for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. While it's active, attack rolls against you have disadvantage, and whenever a creature starts its turn within the sphere, you can force the creature's speed to be halved until the start of its next turn. Once you use this as a bonus action, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. That's so damn good.
There's some really cool, like, honestly, there's some great ones here that...
Like, pick the Path of the Giant, take this, and you are literally Thor.
I mean, realistically, even the Path of the Giant doesn't need this to be Thor. It's already very Thor.
I think it's like, literally just in the last Thor comic I read, he literally did that. He did exactly that thing to protect it, to like fight someone one-on-one and keep everyone else out. He just made a giant like hurricane lightning barrier. It was sick. Sorry.
There's no, you're okay. There's I love this though, because you know me, I really like the elemental flavor. And like you can take these as giant things, but like a lot of them as well, you will say, if you just take, for example, the Ember, the fire giant one, you could just take that if you were like a tiefling or a fire genasi, and you don't have to be like this giant related. You can just be like, I just get this
Flame of the Hells, call it.
Flame of the Hells, or you could just be like, oh, Flame of the elemental plane of something like that. Like these are all things you can just take to flesh yourself out and make yourself more like you could take this if you were like Storm Herald Barbarian for as well, to get that if fire one desert.
You'd have the double auras going with your 10-foot storm aura, then your other 10-foot maelstrom aura.
Yeah. That's really cool though. One that jumps out to me here is again, with
by the way,
stuff.
with the Storms one, you also get another feature called Storm's Oracle that lets you cast divination as a ritual, no material components, and you can choose intelligence, wisdom, or charisma as your spellcasting feature.
Actually, we have a little bit of time left, but I want to talk about one started the podcast. So there are two here. We have the Rune Carver Apprentice and Adept, and we talked about, because you obviously drew very very reasonable comparisons between the path of the path of the giant and the Rune Knight, because you are currently playing a Rune Knight.
Yeah.
And very valid things, very similar themes running through it all with giants. But I think you had some interesting observations about the Rune Carver Apprentice and the Rune Carver Adept as it relates to subclasses.
Yeah, so it like, first of all, when I read the Path of the Giant in this the first time, I went like, this is really what Rune Knight should have been. Was my first kind of reaction to it when I saw this UA. I was like, it feels like it feels like this is like the V2 of the Rune Knight, if you get me. Because like that's kind of what I like, how like a combination of how the Rune feats work and how Path of the Giant works would be how I would have conceptualized a Rune Knight subclass in my head, if you get me.
Yeah.
There's some really key important differences though, and they come up more so when it comes to, like, for example, in my case, where I've multi-class fighter with Barbarian. Because as a Barbarian you cannot cast spells while raging. So with the Rune Knight, their runes, there are two important differences between their runes and these runes. These runes, they are full on spells. You are casting full on spells with these, which is really really awesome. Like, you get some really good ones even just from the Rune Carver Apprentice. You get like Blood, False Life. The first is the rune, the second is the spell. Blood, False Life, Cloud, Fog Cloud. You get, if you pick Dragon, Chromatic Orb, Fire, Burning Hands, Frost, you get Armor of Agathis, which on like a melee class is unreal.
Really good, yeah.
You can, if you take life, you can get Cure Wounds. You can be a fighter that can heal. It's really really good. And that it gets expanded on even more then again later, when you get... Oh no, sorry, there's just the rest as well. You can just get some real guns, like you can get Shield in there, which is really really great too. When you get... Was that the Rune Carver Adept? That's the Apprentice, yeah. And then Rune Carver Adept. then powers that up so that whenever you finish a long rest, you can mark a number of objects equal to proficiency bonus with a rune, from the Rune Carver
Previously,
Apprentice feat.
it's just one with the apprentice, right?
Yeah, with the Rune Carver Apprentice feat, an object can have only one rune at a time, and you must inscribe a different rune on each object. Now, the big jump in difference between Apprentice to Adept with that is, when you do Rune Carver Apprentice, you've only begun studying Runecraft. So when you mark your items, it says whenever you finish a long rest, you can mark one non-magical weapon, armor, or piece of clothing, or other object you can touch with a rune of your choice. When you get to Adept, you can just pick an object, is what it says. So you get the restrictions taken off when you upgrade the feat.
Okay. And so restrictions off, and also you can pick multiple objects equal to proficiency,
Yes.
as opposed to just a single object.
Exactly.
So in combination, both of these, what they let you do is like pick, let's say anywhere between 2 and 6 spells, depending on your level, from this list. Mark just mark a bunch of different objects on yourself. It can be your sword, helmet, it can be your shirt, it can literally be your underwear. Like, you mark all of these, have these spells. You know these spells while you are carrying the rune marked, meaning that if you have additional spell slots because you're a wizard or a sorcerer or anything else, you can cast them using your regular spell slots.
Yeah.
Which again, like if you're a wizard and you take this, you could take the Cure Wounds one to have Cure Wounds in your spell list for as long as the rune is there. Which is it's a really great one. You draw a good point though in that this is very. I see the comparison. Question for me, or question for you, I should say. Am I remembering correctly, or does the Rune Knight, when you take one of the runes, or when you do a certain thing, get resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing?
That's the Hill Rune.
The Hill Rune. Okay,
Yeah.
So because
Also
really
gives you resistance to poison.
also okay. So when you take that, right, and you evoke that rune, you get resistance. You essentially get a rage, and you also get the size Giant Smite ability as well.
Yeah, that's separate from invoking the Hill Rune, but yeah.
Oh, it is. Yeah, no, I know that. Yeah, but so you get those two things, right? While also being a fighter that does not need to be have a rage when they're unable to cast spells, meaning you could take these 2 feats and have some additional.
Yeah.
Be a little bit almost ish because you'd have a handful of spells there. So I see what you're saying. There's a kind of lack, and look, I mean, this is kind of the same with all barbarians. Because barbarians can't do spells, they're really bad at multi-classing into anybody who does do spells.
Yes.
Like even I know, Joe Manganiello has his Dragonborn, who is both a barbarian and a paladin, and it works okay. But there's definitely some conflicting rules there where he can never be at 100% power, because either he's raging and shrugging off a ton of damage, or he's using his spells, but he's never doing both.
It's not so bad with paladin because you can just burn all your spells for smites, I suppose. But yeah, there's like an inner conflict there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
I get what you're saying though about this. Yeah. About it seeming like the one is almost like the predecessor to the other,
Yeah, like when I imagined Rune Knight, and I was like, oh, you can put like the by the way, the benefit that the Rune Knight has over this is if you only take the Rune Carver Apprentice, Rune Knight, you can pick anything. It doesn't have to be non-magical. So like for Rune Carver, you cannot pick, like if you have a +1 sword, you can't put any of those spells on your +1 sword. You have to wait until you're 8th level and you take Rune Carver Adept then as well if you wanted. So there's a 2 feat buy-in to get the things that the Rune Knight can do for free. But I do believe by the end of it you can affect a greater number of objects with the Rune Carver feats together, because you can get 6 by proficient by level 20, whereas Rune Knight I think you're maxed out at 4 or 5.
I think so, which actually makes these pair quite nicely when you think about it. It's almost like being a battle master and taking the martial adept thing to get a couple extra maneuvers.
I just pulled up there, so you cap out at 5 runes at level 15.
Yeah, I mean it's there's a great synergy there. If you wanted to play a Rune Knight, these are definitely the 2 subclasses to double down on that.
Absolutely. If you're going to go Rune Knight, you want to go whole hog Rune Knight, you're just going to play Rune Knight level 1 to 20. At level 4 you take this, at level 8 you take the other one.
Well, actually, the Rune Carver Adept is a level 4 prerequisite.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Everyone gets feats at 4 and 8.
Yeah, but as a fighter you get a feat at 6
level.
level.
Sorry, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so you by 6th level you have both these feats. A bunch of different runes you can assign on a long rest. Like you can you pick
Yeah.
long rest, right?
Yeah, you just
which is class.
it's like a druid spell list where it refreshes the dawn.
Which is great. I mean, you have things like heroism, sanctuary, shield, jump, thunderwave, feather fall is always great to have. There's some really really helpful spells here.
It's almost more gish than the Eldritch Knight, because Eldritch Knight is limited to enchantment spells, isn't it?
No, they have abjuration and evocation.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, sorry. I think I always.
I'm thinking of Arcane Trickster. They're limited to enchantment and illusion.
They are initially, but I think I think what they do is when you're choosing your spells initially from classes, hey, of the 3 spells you get or whatever, 2 of them must be from these spell lists.
Oh, okay.
And then I think later on when you're gaining new spells, you're allowed to pick from other classes. I'd have to double check that though. As someone who played only briefly, but as someone who played an Eldritch Knight very briefly, I should probably know this. But yeah, I get what you mean though. The Eldritch Knight. Honestly, you could even take Eldritch Knight though and pair it with this, and it maybe pairs even better, because as long as you have those runes and you essentially expand your spell list. Taking the 2 of these, right, at 4th and 6th level, and then at 8th level as an Eldritch Knight, taking like Magic Initiate, you can actually expand the Eldritch Knight spell list considerably and be a really, really good Gish character.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean though. Like if you take the 2 of these and the Rune Knight, it's very, very Gish with having few enough spells involved in it, and more so just magical abilities. I do feel that there is a place for both of them, though. I feel like there's a lot of more utility in the Rune Knight, whereas the Path of the Giant is really more about I get big, I smash. You know?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I know. I just.
Which I mean, like it's what we expect from a barbarian, but you know.
Yeah, I know. I think it's particularly the thing where you can just give yourself. Oh, right, I have a magic weapon now. I really feel like that should be something that the Rune Knight also has. Like, because if you're it's the whole thing of like I am carving runes into my gear to imbue them with certain qualities. Like I almost feel like if you're going like fire rune, it does fire that it does like a D4 fire damage, or it changes its damage type to fire damage, slashing or something. Like I feel like that's much more of a like if I were to build a rune, like that would be something I would put in there. You know.
It actually even says it's not even I don't think it makes the weapon magical. It just gives it. It just changes the damage type.
Yeah, but that's all you need.
To like bypass resistance in a lot of cases. No, absolutely. But I'm like another thing, it doesn't specifically say a non-magic weapon, which means you can have your +3 Orphan Thrower or something like that. Be like, oh, and now it does extra thunder damage because I said.
Man, you could put that on a vestige, like.
Oh yeah.
like again, can you imagine that on like the Pyro Mall?
Exactly. I think already doing like 3d6 and then 2d6 for regular damage, and then exactly. You're basically doing fireball level of singular hits on people at that point, like, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like love all 3 of these. The Path of the Giant is infinitely better at taking hits and dealing damage and controlling a large area but I think the Rune Knight, whereas it lacks the raw power of this subclass, I think is still quite utilitarian in a lot of the things it gets. It definitely doesn't have the damage output or the ability to take hits in the same way. But I mean, it still gives you quite a few abilities, whether you're growing in size, resisting damage, getting advantage on attack rolls. I think is something the Storm Giant one lets you do, or something like that, if you invoke the rune.
You can use your reaction to impose advantage or disadvantage on any attack roll within 60 feet.
That's it. Yeah.
Which is,
I think both
sounds good in play, not quite as good as you think it would be.
Yeah. But Martin.
Yes, Connor.
That's all the time we have for today.
Oh man, yeah. Giants, I love it. I just love it. It's awesome. It's sick. It's really really fun. Like everything in there, I would play. Like absolutely everything in there, I would play.
Like, and do you know what? It's rare enough in a UA that absolutely adore everything, but I don't think there's a single thing in this that I dislike.
Yeah,
varying degrees of like, maybe, but like I think everything here is a solid class. I could see myself playing every single one of them. As soon as I read it, I had a character idea, and for me that's the mark of class. If I read this and think of a unique, interesting character that I would like to play, it's a good subclass.
Yeah.
Martin, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on the internet on Twitter at So Sorry It's Over, which is in the bottom right hand corner of my screen. Also on the Micflayers podcast Twitter account at MicFlayersPod. And that's pretty much about it, other than right here every Friday. Well, maybe not next Friday or Fridays for a while. You can find me right here sometime in August on the next episode of the Micflayers podcast.
You guys can find me. You can find me on Twitter at 0.Conor, ZEROPOINT, 1N, very important. If you have any questions you'd like us to ask, stories you'd like us to share, or topics you would like us to cover, please tweet us at MicFlayersPod. You'll find the lower screen. You can find our podcast on Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, and Radio Republic. As Martin said, we will be on a temporary, and then temporary is I want to emphasize that, temporary hiatus until sometime in August, because we hope you can maybe catch up on some of our backlog of episodes if you're interested. And until then, we hope to see you next time. Thank you very much for joining us. Sláinte.
Later, folks.